Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of the All You Can Hear podcast. I am your host for today, Wenzel, and joining me today are writer, director Erika Arlee and actress and producer KRISTI Ray. And we're going to be talking about these two lovely ladies and their film, A Song For Imogene, which we do talk about a little bit in our most recent Sidewalk episode. So please go check that out. And yeah, so I know I asked this before, but how are you guys doing today?
Doing so good.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice and see your face, even if you're not used to it. It's fun. It's been a little bit since Sidewalk, so it's we're happy to reconnect with you, and thank you so much for having us on your show. We're excited to reach your audience and talk a little bit about the movie too.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you so much. This is I mean, this is pretty big for us. This is big for me, just because I mean, I have literally a director, an actress right in front of me. I've never done an interview before. I'll go ahead and say that I've never done this before, this interview style, and it's just so crazy having seen a film that you guys made. Like that's insane, and it's your first full feature, Erica. How does that feel?
It feels amazing. I mean, this film was such a labor of love and a labor of community, and I just feel so excited that it's out in the world. We've seen it so many times and it's been part of our world for so long that I forget that when we go to all these festivals, it's exciting to be around people who are seeing it for the first time and meeting the characters for the first time because they've been in our hearts for so long. So getting to celebrate that and share that and pass the message of the film along and start conversations around what's happening on screen. It's really all we could have asked for with this project. And to accurately represent the South and women in the South, I just feel so proud of the production value, the performances, the editing, the music, everything, every little bit of it. I feel really proud, especially as a debut feature.
Yeah, that's awesome. You definitely I know for me and my usual co-host Colt, um, watching this film, it hit really close to home since we were growing up in Alabama in the deep South. You guys definitely hit it on the mark with this. It was pretty crazy because we having heard well, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit because I was going to ask both of you, what inspired to make this film? Was this a collection maybe of stories you've heard, or is this like something personal? What inspired both of you?
Yeah, the film actually started out in 2017. We produced a short film. It was called Lorelei, and Erika wrote it. It was a 7-page slice of life movie about the two sisters, about Janelle and Cheyenne, overcoming the miscarriage and the decision to put the house on the market. So we're kind of like giving away some spoilers in this episode, but we'll keep it vague enough that people are still intrigued about, going to see the film. Erika wrote it as sort of a call to action and like a call to opportunity for both of us. We both grew up acting and not getting the kinds of opportunities that we really wanted, the kinds of auditions that compelled us as actresses, or being offered any roles that just felt like worthy of our talent. And we really wanted to explore subtle, nuanced characters that felt real and felt authentic to our experience growing up as women in the South. So like yourself, I totally identify with this movie. I mean, her writing is impeccable, but she nails it right on the head, and every audience where we take this movie, even sometimes outside of the South in the Midwest or other places, they say, wow, this is my family. This is like a place where I grew up. This is so similar to my lived experience. And thank you for making this because I feel so seen and heard. And that's always like a badge of honor that we get to wear when sharing this with people. But to go all the way back to 2015 and 2017, when she wrote the film and we produced the short film, it just started out as this slice of life, and we took it to festivals regionally, and people kept asking, are you going to turn this into a feature? What's next for these characters? These women are so intriguing. We care about them. We want to know. We've never seen people like this on screen. So, the rest is history. And when it was time to really feel confident enough to make our first feature, this was the natural choice. And Erika can talk a little bit about the writing process, but it was very highly personal, I think, for both of us. And, the way that you collected the stories is really interesting.
Yeah. The nugget of the short film is not just a struggle between the sisters around what to do with their familial estate. It's also a yearning for the younger sister, Janelle, for her older sister to come and start a new life. And there's an abusive boyfriend who's alluded to in the short film, but he's off screen. He never appears. And this Janelle says to Cheyenne in the short film, don't go back there, don't run away again. And she wants Cheyenne, her older sister, to stay with her. And Cheyenne ultimately walks away. And that's kind of one of the final shots of the scene, is Cheyenne leaving and going back to this guy because she doesn't really have any other options. And I think that's something else that was true to our experiences. And I think that that's something else that people really connected with about the film. So when it came time to write the feature and expand that world, we had to sort of see what Cheyenne was dealing with and understand the nuances of the situation she was in. And a lot of times I've found with survivors of domestic abuse or people who have been in emotionally controlling relationships is sometimes that can start in a family unit. So sometimes these cycles of familial abuse or familial trauma sometimes permeate into someone's life as an adult, and they end up in these cycles because that's how they understand love. So wanting to explore all of that and how Cheyenne's experience going home, you see why she's in this experience now, and then you also get to see who she once was and the way that music lights her up and the way that she feels free when she's riding that motorcycle and all of those beautiful imagery of her freedom. And you get the sense that of who she once was. And so I'm really glad we got to explore all of that in the feature, because those are all themes that are highly personal to us. And then showcasing authentic women in the South was also important to us and a big part of why we made the short film originally.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. No, your film is definitely important. Like you said, with exploring that abuse and trauma, especially in the South, how it carries on through families. It's definitely you definitely depict it very well and explore it. I believe anyway. Going to the characters of Cheyenne and Janelle, what was it like working with your co-star? Because even though it's acting, of course, I don't need to say that. You guys felt like, or the depiction really felt like sisterhood. Like there was a Rotten Tomatoes review I saw where somebody said, "I know Janelle. Everybody knows a Janelle," and I was like, "Oh my!" Like, because me and my co-hosts were like, "We all know a Janelle." Um, it was just so funny.
I'm so glad that you brought up that review. It's my favorite line that anyone's it shouts out Mackenzie Barwick. She is my sis, I mean, not literally, but at this point we call each other sister, and it's been 3 years since we made the movie, but I love that woman with my whole heart. And we fell in love with her 2 years, a year before production, and she became Janelle. Erika has this like really beautiful ability of writing for actors and like helping them through their voice. I couldn't imagine anyone else in that character. And working with Mackenzie was a dream, because she's the kind of person who I can just look at and just bust out laughing. She doesn't have to say anything. She's just literally like the essence of her being just like tickles me. I get so giggly around her. And so I think there's this beauty. I mean, I have a sister. I know what it's like to fight and argue and to have friction and toxic, like cycles that you're going through, but ultimately you're always going to love your family and you're always coming back to that sisterhood. And so it doesn't matter if you had a big fight last night, when you wake up the next day, they're still your sister. And so there was always this element of like deep down, even if we're fighting, I love Mackenzie so much that I think that bleeds through in the scenes where the sister relationship feels so authentic. And then you get those fun moments of levity when they're smoking pot on the couch or they're laughing about the boy at the auto shop that just, it's like, it really is a little bit of Kristi and Mackenzie coming out in these ways where we're watching it in a screening for the 100th time and we're pinching each other being like, she nailed this because she just let a lot of herself into the character. And I will say that this was her very first time acting in a movie. So hats off. I mean, incredible performance. She does so well. We had a lot of really green or, you know, non-actors in the film. And I think that's also what lends itself to the authenticity, but I just adore her. And, Erika just finished directing her in a comedy, which was like a totally different experience, but she leads like a short comedy, that
it's like a mockumentary
in post right now. So you could love her just as a person. I wish she was like right here. It would be like her to just pop up right now and be like, hey, I'm here.
No, she was incredible. That's very surprising. That was her first time. There's so many people like her, and like you said, every time I saw her on screen, I just laughed because not in a demeaning way, but just because she just seemed so fun, wonderful. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's crazy. Like she did a fantastic job. I mean, again, both of you did.
I can't wait to have her listen to this episode when it comes out.
And music definitely plays a huge role in this movie, especially with Cheyenne being a musician. And
I think you did a great job learning the guitar and practicing, and especially on that's my dad's guitar. So it really is an original 1974 Les Paul, and there is a crack in the neck when the pawn shop owner calls it out. That is a crack in the neck that my dad repaired himself back when he was using it and playing in bands when he was a youngster. So I love that it gets so much screen time. Whenever my dad's in the audience, I know he's beaming. He's also in the film. He's in the bar scene when Kristi is up on stage playing. He's like tucked away in the background. So there's a lot of like fun Easter eggs, like musical Easter eggs. And my dad's also a musician. So I love sound design and like score and music, and all of that is kind of interwoven in the film to create kind of a lyricism of the pacing and of the edit and of the dialogue. Like the film kind of moves in this musical way. So I think it works really nicely. That was kind of a late phase discovery that Cheyenne should be a musician. She wasn't always a musician in earlier drafts of the script. And it was kind of a late phase discovery to give her something more significant that she walked away from in order when she started this relationship with Alex, and like to have a lost dream that she could reclaim. And I'm really glad that happened. That was something that was just kind of gifted to us when we renamed the film from Lorelei to A Song for Imogene.
And it's something as an actress I could relate to because I had an Alex once. We always say this when we talk about how personal the film was, but a lot of the things that happened to Cheyenne were just pulled from my own personal experience or from Erika's. And I didn't give up music for a relationship, but I did give up my acting career for a while. And it was reclaiming that and leaving that relationship that I identified that with Cheyenne, you know, and that hopeful note of her finally finding her voice and going back out on the road to chase her dream. I could relate in this way. And when Erika wrote in the script, you know, that she's playing Delta Dawn, like that's something really personal to me. I grew up like loving that song, singing that with my sisters, like, and my mom and her sisters. It's like this generational kind of like family anthem, if you will. And luckily for me, my brothers are very talented musicians. They're in a bunch of bands. So both of them were my guitar tutors, and my youngest brother taught me how to ride a motorcycle for the film. So there was a lot of character development and study that I did physically in like the 3 months leading up to the film. I had to kind of step away from producing a bit and learn how to be Cheyenne, so to speak. But really proud to say I do my own stunts and all that good stuff. So it was a fun time.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. No, that's really cool. Just because of music's important everywhere. But especially in the South, I feel like with obviously with country music, there's that strong hold there, and I think that was I think that was a neat addition. Now knowing it being so last minute, last second. Um, yeah. No. So why I guess I got to ask why was there a specific reason you chose Emogene, the name?
That's a fun one.
Yeah. So the film was originally called Lorelei, and then this seems to happen to us when we're developing
A new
projects. But a feature film also called Lorelei came out the same
It was the
2021
year we were
or
financing, I
was
think.
it 2021 or 2022? It must have been 2021. It couldn't have been that late.
Mhm.
In 2021, another independent feature film by a female writer director, her name's Sabrina Doyle, called Lorelei came out, and she had Jenna Malone in her film. So like the indie darling of the independent film scene was in her film. So we knew just from like an SEO standpoint, IMDb, all of that, that our film would always kind of come in second to the Jenna Malone picture. So we had been married to Lorelei for so long because the short film had been called Lorelei since 2015. And again, Lorelei singing, there's like a cadence to that. There's 3 syllables in that name. So we actually called on our community and like made it a whole thing. We asked people to help us rename the film. We were like, SOS, this is what happened. We decided to be transparent because we also knew from a branding perspective that it would just be weird to suddenly change it and have people be confused. They'd be like, where'd Lorelei go? Where'd your feature film go? And we're like, oh, now it's this. They'd be like, why? So instead wrapping the community into that and asking them for suggestions for a name. And a young female filmmaker named Shanita actually suggested the name Imogene, a familial name for her. And it stuck. It had the same
Southern.
syllabic thing, the same kind of cadence and rhythm. But I remember sitting in the office, our first office as Honeyhead, and my mind just went, what if it was a song for something, whatever this name is, 3-syllable name. And I don't know why that happened. I was like, that would just be cool. And this was before Cheyenne was a musician in the script.
Why Cheyenne became a
She
musician?
became a musician because it just kind of stuck. Instead of just calling the film Imogene, like Lorelei, for some reason, A Song For Imogene just had this ring to it. And then we were like, well, if it's called A Song For, there needs to be a musical element to the script. And then Cheyenne became a musician. So I think it was all
divine.
Yeah.
No one's ever asked that question, so it's fun to tell people that backstory there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's really interesting, especially that's very sweet because with what happens in the film, A Song for Imogene, it's like it speaks so much in tenderness and oh gosh, I meant to ask this first, actually. I'm so sorry. How was Sidewalk for you guys?
So good. I literally can't get over how much fun we had at Sidewalk. It was our first time there. And it was, I mean, to say Birmingham is hospitable is like an understatement, not just the festival, but the whole city. It just felt like everyone was so friendly and accommodating, and there were no egos at this festival. It was really time. I thought the program was awesome. The turnout from the community is incredible. Like we saw a Saturday afternoon documentary and 2,000 people showed up at the Alabama Theater and it was sold out. It's like, I haven't been to a festival like that where people just are really enthusiastic about supporting indie cinema. So I think some things I loved about it was the way they shouted out their staff, and they had like Volunteer of the Year award and all of this, community around what it takes to really pull something like that off. I just appreciated all of it. I had the best time. It was one of the top festival experiences for us.
Yeah. Just the hospitality and the networking and the venues. I mean, And yeah, the fact that the community came out to the screenings, we were just blown away. Didn't know what to expect, had heard really excellent things, and then all of our expectations were exceeded for sure.
That's good. I know for a lot of people here in Alabama, specifically Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, they're kind of like these strong communities that are developing within the arts. So that's good to know. Okay, so going back to about the process of this film and making it, this film is emotionally very heavy, and then there's these really strong, um, silent scenes. I just want to know, like, how did you guys know? Okay, so sorry, how did you guys know to do the silent scenes for let them be what they are, and then I guess this can be for both of you, but for Kristi, my second question is with those really heavy scenes, I mean, how did you how'd you get prepared? How'd you even do that? Because those are, I mean, it's always like crazy seeing actors do what they do, and I still just don't understand.
Mm.
I love that he asked about the silence. It's like the most favored thing and savored thing, I think, for people.
Yeah, I'm a fan of silence. I think that it can speak volumes, as they say, and letting the film breathe was important to me. And allowing the environment to have its say in that way. So a drippy faucet or the sound of her feet under the comforter or a an oscillating fan, which is definitely a theme in the film, this kind of like rattling white noise that is so quintessential of the South. If you've ever been like in a house that doesn't quite cool down all the way and you have these like box fans or like an oscillating fan, you know, something like that, that sound is so like summertime in the South to me. So really wanting there to be a true silence and then B silence of like voices where environmental sounds could come in and play. And again, kind of going back to music and rhythm, I think when you're writing dialogue and you're writing scenes, there is a rhythm to it. There is like, I think good writing and writing I admire, you can almost feel like there's a pacing, there's like a musicality to it, even if it's not like a musical, it's like there's still something that feels good. The beat and the way characters pause, take a breath, and all of that when you're doing it in the writing, all of that when you're directing it on the day on in production, and then all of that when it's coming together in post and you're either creating more space or taking space away or leaving it as it was performed. All of that are like, all of that are choices that are really important, especially to me, just like finding that rhythm, because that's how you can that's how you can create those emotional reactions, you know, for your audience and give them time to think while the characters are thinking or not give them any time. But part of the lived in feeling of the film for me was in the silences.
It's you talking about pacing reminds me of what it felt like being on set. So to kind of answer the question that you threw at me about how we get there emotionally, our crew was really small for this. We had 28 people total, not including cast, but that was like our whole crew, including our production assistants that were interns of Honeyhead, of our production company. So a really small, intimate team that was all very respectful of the subject matter. A lot of them were women. We had over 70% women in our crew, which is also like great when you're doing a female-led drama that has such heavy, that tackles such heavy female issues on screen. I felt really safe as an actor. Being the producer of the movie, like handpicking the crew, it's like you have your core group of people around you that are supportive, and so I never felt challenged in like an unhealthy way or nervous or intimidated by tackling the subject matter. I had known this character for so long. Erika wrote her for me and was part of, you know, many iterations of the script. And so when it came time to actually like take off the producer hat and just slip into Cheyenne, I I would have to like peel away from production because my brain is always constantly like problem solving as a producer. So I was thinking about everything you're saying about musicality and space to breathe and time and pacing. And we would schedule that into the day where I would peel away and I'd put on music and I'd go sit alone in the back room while they would set up. And I don't think I had like a stand-in. I don't know what was happening while
I usually stood in.
Erika would stand in for me. And you know, our first team PA, Annalise, would come get me when it was like just time. You know, I don't want to be on set and like be distracted by what the crew's doing. I just would slip in. And as a method actor, I have a lot of music that comes to me that will like trigger memories and past experiences, whether or not they're related to the exact subject matter on camera. They kind of just get me as an actor into an emotional state where I'm feeling like vulnerable up to here. So if I'm like already in that mental state and I'm very relaxed, that's when like the best acting flows through you, is when you're not distracted. And so part of my training as an actor was like going through these breathing relaxation exercises and isolating yourself in a way where your sense memory is like very present and you're kind of like drifting away in this dream state. And the music helps me get there to where at any moment, like the words coming out of you or what the other actor is giving you in the scene, and you've broken down your script and you've gone through and you know the beats of the dialogue and like where it's supposed to peak and, you know, the rhythms of the scene that she's talking about writing. I feel like I'm rambling. Is this making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're making sense.
Okay, great. And so you're already here, you're up to your throat with the emotions. And so they just naturally can fall out of you. And we call cut, and I would just need to stay there, right? It's like, you have to kind of just stay in this state. My co-star Hayden, who plays Alex, is like extremely method and almost to like a scary point, because Alex is a scary character where he would be off like by a tree, just not talking to anyone. And like until we'd like wrap, you know, and then he'd smile, and he's like a very dear person. So there was a lot of that, you know, kind of like sort of hovering around for me until I knew that we got the take that we needed. And then I could like relax and go back into producing schedule mode and like what's next and how was that, or we'd watch playback together, we'd talk about it. But I always need to kind of like be almost suffocating in my emotions, and I use music to slip into that state. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. That's very fascinating and a very good tool. I know for myself, music will put you in that, have you feeling very strong emotions or memories. So yeah, no, that's incredibly fascinating. Something I loved about this film, and I know my co-host loved about this, was how this film kind of subvert the expectations of what is considered a conventional or traditional uh, family. We thought it was incredibly fascinating, especially for a film media, to explore whenever, specifically the scene where Cheyenne is talking to Janelle, and Janelle is telling Cheyenne about how she has raised her son, and Cheyenne is doing the same thing of raising her, potentially her daughter, without the intervention of her boyfriend, without the child's father. And we thought that was so fascinating because you don't really see that of a woman or a mother taking their autonomy of wanting to raise a child by themselves. That's just something not really heard of. And to see that explored and to something you don't see. Is that what you were trying to go for with that? Maybe I'm off the mark. I want to know your thoughts.
I think that I just love grounded, strong women. And I think motherhood is something that all women, well, I don't want to say all women, but it's certainly something that I have thought about. And I think that it's something that is on many women's minds. And I think that maternal bonds and generational maternal bonds are so fascinating, and how they shift and adapt through generations, but there's still kind of this female strength and this bonding to a child that transcends those generations. So I love Janelle's monologue about being pregnant, and becoming a mother, because you sort of understand that it was likely a surprise pregnancy and she wasn't necessarily intending to become pregnant with her son. So feeling disembodied from that. And then when he moves inside of, her uterus and feeling that and feeling connected to him. I just love that idea of bonding with a child, while they're still in utero like that. And now Kristi has had that experience in real life. So I have kind of a different perspective, honestly. I'm trying to like put myself back to when I was writing and directing the film. Because Kristi River was not a part of our lives yet. And now I'm like a proud auntie. And I've been able to feel her, while she was growing in Kristi, and like what a magical experience that is, and how impactful motherhood is, and that bond of mother and child, I think, and the strength that it takes. Oftentimes your families are unconventional. I think families can look a lot of different ways that aren't quite like the traditional nuclear, like, you know, mother, father, and what is it like? The average two and a half kids or whatever it is. I think that families can be made in lots of different ways, and they can look a lot of different ways, and still be a family.
Yeah.
So I think that was something that I wanted to explore, and also having Janelle being a mother to a son and having that unconsciously, or unconscious for Janelle, that unconsciously impact her sister who's contemplating her own pregnancy, I think was something that I wanted to use as a writer, as this mirror, and for something that the audience, it's like a secret the audience keeps with Cheyenne, until she tells Janelle. And so when we see her looking at Noah, we as the audience know what she's thinking, even if Janelle doesn't know. So it's like it's a fun way for the audience to be close to Cheyenne and feel closer to her and care for her and her future. And I think it empowers her to see her sister do that, because I think that the idea of like a broken home, doesn't have to mean that there's, only one parent. I think and sometimes we kind of stumble into that sort of language, but I think you can still have a very complete and whole family, even if it did end up being like two sisters living in their old childhood home, and the like nephew, niece, or whatever. I think that there's something beautiful about the families we create, maybe either with blood or unconventionally.
And I love the way that Noah the child, Janelle's son, is a huge kind of turning point at the climax of the film that really like helps solidify Cheyenne's decision that Alex isn't going to come back. It's like having to see it through her nephew's eyes was like the tipping point where he asked, is he going to get better soon? And there's this pregnant pause of like, she has to face that no, he isn't. And I'm not going to let him hurt you. And, you're right. I don't want you growing up being this man, seeing this man, like being subjected to this. And she, even though she's lost her child, has stepped into this maternal, these shoes with Noah of like protecting and wanting. She's always concerned, like, where is he? Where's Noah? And it's like, she doesn't want to be the cause of creating any kind of trauma for that family that, I mean, she just met him a few days before that, but that like instant bond and love is there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's yeah. So that's especially important. That's why we really love this film, was because of that, showing that that tenderness and that femininity, being strength. In one of your I believe it's one of your clips or one of your interviews, you say that, and I think that's such a strong like phrase there, because femininity doesn't have to be it's strength, and not like necessarily pointing to masculinity. And then how you talk about unconventional families and whatever a quote broken home is, that doesn't necessarily mean that there is that it's not whole, or that one parent is a bad thing necessarily. It's that's trying to think of how I had this in my head earlier. because I've been thinking about this film constantly. Obviously, with scheduling this interview, it's been on my mind. But this film, like, it's really resonated with me just because of in the South, in America in general, probably for past, I want to say maybe starting in the 19th century, going into the 20th, there's this idea of a traditional family being a mother, a father, and a kid, or maybe two, and that going into that's going through the 20th century into now, and then having more media, films, books, whatever, showing that that's not the case, that traditional families aren't necessarily shouldn't necessarily be considered normal or the standard, or families can look all kinds of ways, and that people can growing up to be perfectly capable, perfectly loving humans. And that's what really resonated with me and my co-host about this film, is showing that and showing that type of motherhood, that type of parenthood. Um, I wasn't rambling there. You guys, sorry.
Oh no, it's good. It's good to hear people's reactions to that. We haven't really spoken very much in our Q&As with the film about the way that family is portrayed. I think one person asked it in Carrie. I think we got that question. But I think that there is something very fierce and wonderful about a mother's love for her child, and the strength that comes from that, and a renewed sense of purpose. I think that comes from that. And it's something I've experienced. I have a very fiercely loving mother myself, and I think I see the way that has transcended into my own sense of womanhood, as an adult, and how that love is important, and especially like mother to child, and I think also father to child. But there's just something about, and the fact that for Imogene, many of the fathers are kind of just not present, because we wanted to really explore maternal bonds.
Yeah.
So that was kind of thematic within that.
I also just want to say, I think it's cool that the film is really about that, but it's just those characters just are. It's not like a movie about absent dads. That's not really like the theme of the
No,
film.
of
It's
course
just
not.
the way some people live, and the way that, I mean, you might not know all the people passing on the street who have an absent father, an absent mother, or, are experiencing anything like this. And so you just you give the characters a chance to just be their authentic self. And I think, like you and your co-host, so many people just see a little bit of themselves in one of these characters up here. And that's what people are like, that's kind of why it sticks with them, I think, because it's not like in service of the plot. It's just the way that people are colored
Yeah.
differently. Yeah.
And how we think about female freedom, and what that looks like, and how I think so often we associate children with being trapped in some way, whereas they can be very liberating, as from in a way as well, because they teach you something about yourself that maybe you didn't know, or maybe they humble you in some way. So I think that there's something about that as well, that I love the idea of a woman being fully herself with a child as well, and not necessarily trapped in a traditionally domestic role, which Janelle certainly is not.
No, definitely not.
So I think that was also something that I found admirable about her character as well. And it gives Cheyenne, I think, pause and thought to see that non-traditional motherhood, which I think is a fun thing to explore in the film.
Oh yeah, of course. To detract a little way from your film, I also wanted to talk about your guys' production company, Honeyhead. Would it be okay if you guys kind of told us about that and your mission statement? Because I think it's great.
I love talking about, Honey has like a vehicle to create these stories and have a platform to be able to share them. I think it's really fun to get into how we started our production company. There's a pretty fun origin story that we like to tell people about how we met on Craigslist in
Hmm.
2014 and and our company was born, and it was like the birth of, I mean, that was 10 years ago at this point, right? So all of this has been leading up to where we are today, but Honeyhead was founded because, like we said, with, you know, why we told this story to begin with, there was just a lack of excitement in the roles that we were being offered as young actresses. And we decided to just take control of that and to create stories that we wanted to see, and opportunities for ourselves and our friends and people around us to be creative filmmakers together. Being totally self-taught, it was a big challenge and there was a learning curve at first, but I feel really lucky that we began producing movies just outside the box and the constraints of what they teach you in film school. I think that the world is our oyster in this way because we were never told that there's a right or wrong way. We just came up with the best way to get from point A to B on our own and together. Every year, I feel like we learn more and we grow further. And it's something that's been like a really beautiful community to build and take along the journey with us. And so the mission of Honeyhead being, you know, to create more authentic and diverse stories and to create opportunities for women and marginalized people in front of and behind the camera. That's something that's just like, it goes beyond making good movies. It's like standing for something besides the stories that you're telling. And so there's like a twofold to it. It fills my cup, like the mission of Honeyhead fills my cup in the way that you only get to produce a movie like once every couple years, you know, and there's like the golden time of being on set and like the most fun part of that, promoting the film, going to festivals and things, but there's a whole lot of like downtime in between. And if you have a mission behind why you're doing what you're doing, it's there to like fill our cup along the way. That's kind of like the analogy that just came to me when I was thinking about it.
How many films, if you're willing to if you can say, how many films do you guys have under your company's belt?
Oh gosh. We have made, I mean, how many short films have we made as Honeyhead? I don't even know.
Originals?
Yeah.
Over 12.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But we also produce movies for other people, like as a commercial entity. So sometimes they're short films and sometimes they're features.
And some narrative, some documentary. You know, so many, probably over 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like music videos and commercials and things like that too. But in the narrative film space, maybe we can bait you with a little insight into our next project that we're developing right now, which is very fun to talk about. We actually haven't really gone public with it, so this would be like our first announcing. Erika's writing and directing something very exciting.
Yeah, it's a dystopian action thriller with a female-led cast, of course, and it's called Host Country. So it's departing from Imogene, I would say, as far as being kind of a quiet indie drama, but it still has a lot of the, you know, thematically the things that I enjoy as a writer, you know, like balancing dialogue with the action sequences and making sure that the characters feel real and the world feels real, even in a dystopian near future. That matters to me. So it's not so much, sometimes we started pitching it as a post-apocalyptic film, and then we got a lot of questions about were there zombies or brain fungus and things like that. And it's like, no, it's just kind of a real glimpse into the world, in something that might be, you know, again, something that's a near future, that's a real, even after a nuclear event. I did a lot of research into what would actually happen to our climate, and, you know, and what the world would really look like, and tried to build a true picture around that of how society might rebuild itself and what factions might arise, and all of that. But at its core, the film is a mother-daughter story. So again, going back to those themes in Imogene, it's three women are the leading roles in the film. So yeah, so we're very excited about that. We have been in development with it for over a year, but actively packaging the film for about a year now. So we've been kind of keeping it quiet and kind of doing a more traditional route. It's going to be a bit of a higher concept than Imogene. So, but it's been very exciting. And we just had our table read for the project, first ever table read earlier this week. So we're starting to kind of announce it to our community. And I think speaking things out and having people get excited helps create momentum.
Definitely
So
does. Yeah.
that's a big part of the honey too. The honey, spreading the honey, that's definitely a big part of things for us is like bringing the community and the goodwill of the community into the projects. I think helps with, the magic that always need a little pinch of that fairy dust with filmmaking, I feel like.
I think you're totally right. And it's a huge part of all the success I think that we've had as Honeyhead is really like not to get all woo woo, but I'm going to get woo woo. It's just because making movies is really hard. And it's a miracle that any film gets made. And if people feel good at the end of wrapping your film, or your crew is sitting in the audience and they're having like great memories of the way they were treated on set, I think that's a miracle and a half. And I do believe that it permeates into the camera. Like, I think the energy on set is picked up by the lenses. I think all of it is like wrapped into the movie. And then when our audience is watching the film, I think they're getting that good energy and intention that came from every person who was respected and had a great time making this kind of sad movie, but really like it was like the time of people's lives and ours as well. And so I feel that, and every set, every Honeyhead set is that way. It's like always good vibes, like really positive energy is part of our company culture, is just to have a good time and to treat people well, because that's not really traditionally how things go in the industry. And we wanted to shake that up as well as like give people opportunities and things. But Honeyhead stands for like a lot of really good vibes and the capital H honey. Yeah. And so that magic, like throwing it out here, it's like you're going to help get the project greenlit. You just got to think about it with us.
Awesome. Thank you for telling us, by the way. That's really cool. Good luck, of course, with that. And also you said this year's your 10-year anniversary with Honeyhead?
Of us meeting on Craigslist. We thought we'll have a party. We'll have a Craigslist themed 10-year anniversary party. It was 2 years after we met when we rooted down and decided to like launch a brand and start creating films
together.
The first
short film we ever produced as Honeyhead was in December of 2016. So that'll be like December 2026, which will be here before we know it. I feel like is like that. It's sort of the decade. But this is the decade when we
met on Craigslist for Erika's very first film. She had a casting call, and for some reason, at that part, for some reason, I was looking for an acting job on Craigslist, which I don't recommend. And she doesn't recommend looking for actors on Craigslist. She's got a lot of like underwear pics from weird guys and stuff, like she just don't want. But we found each other, it's like a self tape. I sent in my tape and we met on set the night before our very first day of production. And we were just fast friends, like right away, bonded. And it was Lorelei that like, that short film that was Imogene, that Easter, or that, not the Easter egg, but the seed that was planted of Imogene that really set off, us wanting to make films together. And at first they were short, and, maybe sometimes there'd be a 5-person crew or a 3-person crew or a 10-person crew. And as our skills grew as producers, so did our productions and things like that. And it's been just like the greatest joy. And if you asked me 10 years ago if we would be here today doing this, or
be like, that sounds hard,
I would not believe you. I would have been like, how do I get from point A to B in that way? And so we're the success story where you can like look at yourself and say, if they can do it, I can do it too, because we were just two actresses who had a passion at one point. And now we've been able to build a whole community who's supportive of the kinds of work we do. And I think we have a really unique thumbprint and fingerprint as filmmakers and as a brand that I'm really proud of.
Good. Well, regardless, congrats. Still 10 years, or almost 10 years, but still being around so long. That's incredible. So congrats regardless. I guess to wrap up a bit, are you guys still on the festival circuit with A Song for Imogene?
Yeah, we're actually tomorrow we head out to Charlotte and to Hickory, North Carolina. So we're driving across the state. We have maybe four more Carolina-based film festivals, and then Erica is flying to Los Angeles on October 13th.
On my birthday.
Yeah, for
Oh, okay.
final plus will be in LA. Yeah, so
Yeah, we're really excited. We hadn't had a West Coast premiere yet, and we were kind of like, well, maybe this will just be kind of like the southeastern run, but then we found out we got in to an LA festival, so it'll be exciting to kind of close out the run on the West Coast. Really excited about that.
That's awesome. Yeah. Are there any plans or ideas of larger distribution of the film?
yeah, we're actually currently tying up our deal right now. We'll be releasing it digitally, and we're also doing a hybrid distribution strategy where we retain the theatrical rights to the movie. So we're able to four-wall the film in indie art house cinemas across the country, wherever it makes sense for us. It's pretty expensive to do that. So we're taking it, baby steps. We've got screenings planned in North Carolina. We know we have like an audience here that will show up to the screenings. And so a marketing plan is really important for that kind of thing. But if you or anybody listening wants to help us get the film in some theater where you're really passionate about, we're bringing that there, and we're retaining the rights theatrically to it. But it will be available widely and wildly
And wildly
available probably in Q1 of 2025. I would imagine it takes a little while to get all of the deliverables to the distributor and that sort of thing.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's good to hear. Because this film definitely needs to be seen by people. I believe. And I just wanted to quickly again say thank you guys for doing this, but thank you so much for making this film and for your production company. Especially now with how humans and art is being devalued, it's really a brave and bold thing to make art. So I just wanted to say thank you for making this and for and creating a, as you said, with this mostly female-led crew and film, creating this positive ecosystem. I'm kind of quoting here, you guys on this, in a toxic industry. That's we need more of that, and I'm grateful, and I hope everybody can be grateful to these two artists here for making this and doing this.
Well, thank you
That's
so
really
much.
sweet.
Thank you.
And if you want to go, guys, just go ahead and plug yourselves wherever, whatever, just go for it.
Yeah, so we are very active on social media. You can follow us on Instagram at Honeyhead Films. You can follow along with the film at Imogene Movie. I am at Erika.Arlee, and Kristi is at KRISTI Ray of Sunshine. We're on IMDb. The film's website is imogenemovie.com, and our production company site is honeyheadfilms.com. And we would just love to connect with everybody who wants to follow along the journey, or who maybe has a project, that they want to get off the ground and they need someone to work with them. We're always open to looking at projects that have some development financing and they need to know, where the next steps might be. So always happy to collaborate with other independent filmmakers.
You did a great job with the plugs. Yes. I will just add that when the film does get its distribution date, when it's like its release date, I should say, that you can find that on Instagram or Facebook. But also if you want to join our mailing list at the bottom of honeyheadfilms.com, there's a place where you can subscribe. I only send it out when there's really big news. So if you'd like to follow along with our journey, also with host country and developments there, you can join our mailing list at the bottom of the website.
Awesome. Yeah, no, this is incredible. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So originally I did record my plugs separately, but I am re-recording them because at the time of this episode releasing, Hurricane Helene has caused a lot of damage and devastation to many places, including the home state of our two guests. So I've included a link to Operation Airdrop in the description, and if you can donate, please do to help with relief efforts. But I also believe that Erika and Kristi's Honeyhead Films are taking donations as well through the Honeyhead Films Venmo to help in buying supplies. So, of course, ask them, shoot them a message, because I'm not exactly sure if they're still taking donations, but every little bit helps. I've also included links to all their socials and websites for their film and company in the description, so please go check those out. And whenever A Song for Imogene does release, go watch it. Thank you again for listening. We are the All You Can Hear podcast. You can find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're more than likely there. Go follow us on Twitter at AYCH Podcast. Go follow the Backlog Boys. Go follow Cajun Greatness. Go follow Instruction Booklet. They're all great. You can follow us on Blue Sky, aychpodcast.bsky.social. You can follow us on Instagram at AYCH Podcast. You can follow us on twitch.tv/all you can hear. And our VODs from our Twitch are on our YouTube, All You Can Hear, along with the instruction booklets, and all of our podcast episodes are on there as well. And lastly, you can follow me, Wenzel, on Twitter at Wenzel Wilkey. Follow my art, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Skies, World of Wenzel. Follow my Bookstagram at Wenzel Banters. My link tree has links for everything, including my Letterboxd and my Goodreads. Thank you.